know you're here today to tell us a little bit about the famous tragedy, I suppose, from our history.
Well, indeed, Ollie, and when I was a young fella back in Waterford City, my grandfather used to tell me lots of stories, as gardens as he used to call them, and one of them was about the Seahorse. And he told me that if you came out to Tramore on a stormy night, you could still hear the voices of the women and children screaming. And in that mixture of voices, you could hear another voice saying, keep away, keep away, keep away from me, for I am the rocks of misery. And when I was a young fella again, coming out to Tramore on the Tramore train with my grandmother, I'd just go up on the beach there at the water's edge and listen very closely to see if I could hear either the screaming voices or the big voice telling me to stay away from the rocks of misery. But that story was actually based in fact. And the fact is that there was 3 transport ships left England bringing troops over to Cork. 3 of them sunk. One of those ships was the Seahorse, and she left from London around the 21st of December and actually went aground in Sandwich Beach. And if people thought it was a bad omen for the future, they were dead right, because it was a terrible omen. About the 26th of December, it left Ramsgate with almost 300 officers and soldiers on board.
You'll have to stop January.
January? What did I say? December?
December, twice, yeah.
Can we pick it up there, lads?
Okay, keep going.
Okay. So, on the 26th of January, it left Ramsgate to sail for Cork. And it met absolutely atrocious weather. They were heading for Cork, as I said, and the weather became foul and very, very misty and foggy, and they could see nothing. So they decided to hug the coast, which actually meant nothing. They got a guy called John Sullivan from Cork to climb up the rigging, up the mast, to have a look. He fell off, broke both his arms and his legs, and 3 hours later died in the arms of his wife on board. The captain became very distracted. Well, maybe there might be even a question because of the event in Sandwich. There might be a question over his competency. So he seemed to have gotten very fuddled and lost. And the ship, in the bad weather, decided to go out to sea. It drove him down towards the coast of Waterford, and he came here across from Brownstown, threw out his anchors, not really knowing where to go, because he had lost all the rigging and the rudder had also broken. He was just being at the mercy of the sea. And there I'll finish that story, and Tommy will tell you what happened when it came into the bay. Right, Tommy, you're on.
At approximately 8 o'clock in the morning, on Tuesday, the 30th of January 1816, the ship rounded Newtown Head and went for shelter beside Brownstown here, in a place called Rinneshark Harbour. Now, it was a natural harbour where ships in stormy weather would weather the storm and then try and get back out and up into Waterford Harbour. Unfortunately, on this occasion, he spent the morning, he dropped his anchors and spent the morning under Brownstown. The anchors dragged, and because of the ferocity of the storm, and he had absolutely no control of the ship came in and hit the beach at approximately this location, maybe a half a mile out. The ship came in stern first and broke in half. We don't know exactly how many souls were on board. It's hard to know. The official figure was 394 to 96, and of that 363 were reported lost, but we don't know if that's the actual figure that was on board. When the ship hit the beach, there was approximately 2,000 to 3,000 people on the beach. This happened at 12:10 in the afternoon, and within a half an hour the ship was gone to pieces. The first wave of bodies that came in were women and children. They came in first, which is suggestive, although we have no proof, it is suggestive that there was an attempt made to get them off first, possibly in a boat. But as the reports tell us of the time, the boats had been washed off previously, so there was some kind of an attempt. They were washed off the deck. They came in first. That was followed by, as the ship broke in half, people were beginning to go back to cabins and just lie down. most likely because they suffered from hypothermia, having weathered the storm the whole way down the coast overnight. They wouldn't have had any energy. Approximately 30 people made it to land safely. 3 died when they arrived subsequently, hours and maybe 1 or 2 days later. The ship, the people on the beach tried to render assistance, but they couldn't launch a boat because of the ferocity of the hurricane. The waves are reported to have been up to 20 feet high, and it was the biggest storm in living memory. So that's what it appears. Now, over the next couple of hours, the 3,000 people on the beach, they had followed it from Mine Head, and at that time anything that was washed up as salvage was fair game for anybody on a beach. However, the peasantry were looting chests as they came in, but the gentry were on the beach and they were buying, they were purchasing what the peasants were taking up. The peasants were then later accused of pilfering everything, but it wasn't the case. They wouldn't have pilfered it had they not had a ready sale. We leave it at that for a second.
Yeah, no problem. We'll cut anywhere you want, Tommy. No
okay,
you
can cut that out.
You can take a breath and relax.
Yeah.
And then if you want to move on to the burials, you want to move on to the burials?
I go to the burials, yeah.
Tommy, the guy on the Boston Curwin, is that the guy who
Kerwin got, that's later to come.
Okay. So do you want to just take me again? When are we ready?
What am I going to take next?
Okay, so...
See, another ship came in. Okay. The bodies were washing in over the course of the afternoon and into the night. So it was decided from Waterford to send a troop of dragoons out to the beach to try and keep order on the beach. The dragoons were successful. We had another ship came in approximately at the second slip is presently today at the amusements at the end of the prom. A second ship came in there, a coal boat. Luckily everybody on board were rescued because of the amount of people on the beach, etc. So there was pandemonium on the beach that night. The following day the crowds were still on the beach and the bodies were coming in one by one. From the Doneraile area we have reports of people looking at red dots on the beach coming in. They were the soldiers in full uniform that had died. Leave it at that for a minute.
And then what happened to them, Tom? The bodies?
Yeah, okay. On the 1st of February...
Let's see to move on the second.
On the 1st of February, the bodies that were taken up, the women and children were put into a cart. We had 16 children and 5 women, as far as I know. They were brought in the cart to Drumcannon and buried outside the church at Drumcannon. The photograph shows a mound at the side of the church where the women and children, they were subsequently archaeologically excavated in the 1970s, and it showed that they had been buried in quicklime. The men were brought up to Drumcannon. We don't know for certain where in Drumcannon they were buried, but it's highly unlikely they were buried in the confines of the churchyard, because the wealthy gentry of the area had a number of graves up there. The graveyard was very small and we had a large quantity of bodies coming in. We had two clergymen on the scene. We had Father Phelan, the Catholic parish priest of Tramore, who has been airbrushed out of history in favour of the Church of Ireland minister, Reverend John Cook, who conducted the burials and took records. We have records of approximately 111 people being buried. 82 of those were buried at Drumcannon, and we have 29 buried on the beach. We'll go to that area.
Where on the beach were they buried?
Approximately about 400 yards from where we're standing at the moment. This is the spot that was marked where the ship actually hit the beach at this spot. Approximately 150 yards from the where the lower car park is. So
and then they were buried over here somewhere, was it on the right?
No, they were buried right underneath
this
This was built by the Malcolmsons in the 1860s to reclaim land to build a racecourse and the golf links. That was subsequently abandoned when these walls, these dikes were breached in 1905, 1906, and again a big breach in 1912, and the whole lot was abandoned, and they just left it back to nature.
So where we're standing now could be where these people were buried?
No.
Okay.
No, I have the exact spot down below.
Right. Okay, so it's further along here.
It's further along, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And sorry, just to go back a little bit. I know Dermot told us about the ships leaving. Why were they travelling here in the first place?
It was the 59th Regiment of Foot, and they had been in the Napoleonic Wars, and they had been at Waterloo, but they didn't take part in the Battle of Waterloo. They were held on the flanks in reserve. They didn't see a lot of action, just some small skirmishes. When the excuse me, when the war was over, it was the very same as happened in World War II, whereby there was a massive mobilisation of troops, and they came from Calais. The 59th Regiment came from Calais and went to Ramsgate, where they waited to board the Seahorse, and the Seahorse then was to take them back to Cork, most likely Charlesford, near Kinsale. But we have nothing to say that was their actual destination, but it's most likely where they came.
So that's why they're heading past Waterford.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second ship to come in that day was the Apollonia. It was a coal boat. They were fortunate to get everybody off because the storm was quite bad, but they did. The dragoons did.
I mean, and Tranmore Bay has been the scene of many shipwrecks over the years.
Oh, it has. There was the Reverend Cook when he abandoned Drumcannon Church around 1809 and built the church where the present Church of Ireland church is at the moment. He put a spire on that church. It was a very small church. The painting will illustrate the church with the Seahorse cenotaph in front of it. So it would give some idea. The Seahorse cenotaph never moved, and that was at the porch of his church. But he put a spire on the church to denote the difference between Tranmore Bay and Waterford Harbour. In 1823, the Admiralty built the present Metalman and 3 towers at Newtown and 2 on Brownstown. We don't know if that's a direct consequence of the Seahorse. There's absolutely no evidence. Human life wouldn't have been as sacred as it is today, but what would have worried them was the tonnage of shipping that was being lost in the bay, and that's the most likely reason that they were put on, marked on the charts, so that they knew exactly where they were, that this was Tranmore Bay, not Waterford Harbour.
Because apparently at sea they look very similar, is that right?
That's right. But it was a countdown to Waterford Harbour. Again, we have no evidence of this, but it's local lore in Tramore that you had 3 towers, 2 towers, and 1 tower being Hook. So you had 3-2-1 into Waterford Harbour, and that was how it was denoted on the charts. We have no evidence that was the plan, but it would appear a logical explanation.
Okay, that's great, Tommy. Are you happy? I think we got a good bit there,
yeah.
Tommy.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
You see, Tommy's the man, and Ivan, that done all the research, and like.